Gotta get the lights right. What's up, YouTube? Oh, that can't have a good stream without good lights. I mean, you can, but it's not as good. Boop. There we go. All right. Let's get it popping. Oh, I gotta get my tea going, guys. Vitally important to the live. Days that I don't do the tea, well, they're just not as good. I'll say that. Got a scale that I use to measure out my tea. 3 grams is a good place to start. This is my little tea jar, and we're going to be drinking out of this, which is nothing really fancy. I got it off Amazon. I definitely aspire one day to have some nicer tea drinking things, but for now this works fine, especially because my daughter likes to play with it. We're just going to go for the full 4 grams. Behold, my friends. This is some pu'er, some Chinese black tea that by the end of this live, I'm going to be jumping out of my chair probably. Just because of caffeine, remineralization, so many awesome things. This needs to get dumped out. I shall return momentarily. And we're good. So what's up, guys? Welcome to the live. I'm just getting set up here. We literally just started. We're going to be talking about the same thing that we always talk about human design and all the many facets and how to use human design in your life, even if you don't know anything about human design or you're just getting started. Human design is something that there's so many different ways to approach it. And there's a lot of different ways that people approach it that, in my opinion, is a waste of time. And I want to save you guys that time. There are a lot of people who are really capitalizing on the human design and in terms of like its popularity and growth. And I'm super happy because I'm so stoked that more people are learning human design. But I feel responsible for letting you guys in on the truth behind human design, because although people are having these incredible transformations, it's not because of the human design system. It's because of what they're doing with the system. They're using their system as a means of falling in love and accepting themselves. They're using the system to see themselves more clearly, and they're not getting stuck in this trap of just learning about the system, right? And you see this all over. People fall in love with the system as opposed to the actual results that they get from the system. And this is very dangerous because this is how you get big governments like what we have that are super ineffective and not efficient at doing things. This is just what happens with systems, guys. There's a balance or a harmony to be made between chaos and order. Order is the epitome of, systems. Chaos is the epitome of like not having a system. And the pendulum swings back and forth. We can't have one without the other. And you can't also you can't just stay in one. So how can you use human design to cope with financial anxiety? Well, I would say that, according to my methods, it's like you would essentially what you would do is you would use human design to figure out where your story of lack is coming from. So a lot of the times, for instance, people will devote a lot of energy into an area that's not necessarily natural for them. Like, for instance, somebody with an undefined heart might spend a lot of time and energy like trying to compete, or somebody with an undefined solar plexus would spend a lot of time and be very busy, but never actually confront the things, the financial, how you say, things that they need to confront in order to overcome the financial anxiety. But one of the things about financial anxiety that has been made massively worse by social media is for people with undefined heads. And I would definitely say, if you have financial anxiety, look at your head center. If it's undefined, it's white and open, you are so much more susceptible to um in being inspired by external sources. Like, you might make enough money to live the lifestyle that you want to live, but because there's so many people on social media and we're seeing all these things happen online that we can compare ourselves to, it's like, in a lot of ways, the internet makes us want things that we don't actually need. And in wanting the things that we don't need, we actually neglect the things that we actually need. And that's where a lot of anxiety comes from. Anxiety is a function of the mind. It's fuel. It's how you say, the fuel for thinking in a lot of ways, or rather, it's the delivery system by which certainty is given to us. All right, you have anxiety. You're like curious about something, but it doesn't become anxiety until it's like detrimental. Well, guess what? It was anxiety the whole time, right? Like, being cautious is just the appropriate amount of fear, right? Being passionate or being how you say, animated, enthusiastic is the appropriate amount of emotion. Being how you say, uh mentally capable, that's the appropriate amount of anxiety. Now, a lot of people have an inappropriate amount of anxiety because they are sourcing a lot of their inspiration from other people and things that are totally irrelevant to them. So anyway, great question. And again, another thing about financial anxiety is like, a lot of people don't want, they see employment as an enemy. And I used to feel that way, but then I realized what a simple, like, steady paycheck and the simplicity of having a job is, and it's not so bad. A lot of people want to, like, totally just take dumps on employment and their jobs and stuff. Catalina, thank you, by the way, so much for all the likes and the shares. Maya Lovely, thank you for liking the live. Everyone, thank you for the taps and the shares. The shares help a lot. We're just trying to get this message out to more people. So yeah, we appreciate you guys a lot. Anxiety, financial anxiety. This is it's such a good question. And there's a lot of different methods to go about it. And I actually had a session recently where that was kind of the main question. How do I make money with my human design? And I say, well, you don't continue just making money the way that you've always made money. You have to take a step back from making money for a second and consider how you're using your resources, the resources that you have. Because again, most people want more without being willing to take a hard look at where they're at and reassess where their abundance is going. Because we in terms of the invaluable things that we need, most of us have everything we need. We have enough food to not starve. We have enough water to not die of thirst. We have enough shelter to not die of freezing and heat. Right? We have these things that are going to, again, give us what we need, and our wants are coming from, again, how you say, anxieties or like mental desires, not necessarily actual needs. And a lot of times people get caught up in those wants, and again, they don't tend to the actual needs. So that's all I have to say about that. There's a lot more I could say about that. And if you guys have more questions, that's awesome. Somewhere you can look in your human design body graph to look at like ways or gifts of yours to take advantage of would be your personality Mercury. This is kind of like your communication style, as well as your north node, which is essentially like the direction you're heading, and your south node, which is the direction you came from. So as a manifester, I feel like if I don't make it happen, it's not going to happen. It's exhausting. Deanna, I totally get you. For pretty much all of the types, your deconditioning process is going to be the most challenging at the very beginning, because there's going to be a lot of things that you don't see yourself doing. And a handful of things that are very, very small and very insidious. I'm talking like really small. You're not going to see those things. And so you're going to start implementing your natural strategy, but the life that you've built for yourself is not going to be conducive for this new strategy. It's like, you know, you have a new software to install, and this actually happens all the time. I was talking to my buddy last night about this. When you have new software and you try to install it on an old computer, the hardware cannot keep up. And so what happens when people are introduced to human design is they learn a bunch about human design, they upgrade their software, their mental frameworks, but their physical bodies need more time. That's why the deconditioning process takes 7 years, because it takes a cellular rebirth for you to actually truly embody human design. So true. I was stripped off money for 9 months so I could fix my money story. Now abundance flows. Yes, exactly. One of the best ways to use human design to, confront your financial challenges is to confront the story. Is to confront the patterns that you have around making money. Because again, a lot of people just want to know, like, oh, what field should I go into? It's like you can do whatever you want, dude. When you're aligned with your body graph, you don't care about money. Money just comes to you because you're responsible with your resources, your time, and your energy. And that affects the way that you attract money. It's not about like, oh, you're a projector, so you should go into this field. It's like, no, you're a projector. If you respect yourself, you can do anything you want. If you know and love yourself and are surrendered to your limitations and know how to leverage your limitations and your gifts, you can do whatever you want. It's not like there's one job that's best for a certain type. It's the people that are awakened to what they are and who they are typically will recognize that, wow, if I let somebody else put a dollar amount on who I am and what I am, it's always going to be that way. Someone else is always going to determine that. I carried my dad's way of handling money and didn't know it was this pattern I had. I could never hold it, right? Why money is scary. Well, money is a reflection of resources, guys. You know, it's like you use money to buy things like luxuries and necessities, you know, food, water, luxuries being like watches, designer clothes or expensive clothes, little decorations and stuff like that. You know, money is scary because in a lot of ways, money is again, a layer or a buffer between you and resources. And if you don't have enough resources, you die. That's why money is scary. Money is scary because when you don't have money, you can't access resources, and there's the possibility of dying. So, you know, and it's not to say that you should be afraid of money or afraid of resources or not having enough resources, because fear is a natural thing. Fear just happens. It's like anxiety and like emotion. They just happen. What do you do with those feelings? What do you do with those anxieties? What do you do with those emotions? What do you do with those fears? That's what you ought to be focusing on. What story do you tell yourself? What behaviors and actions does that story allow to happen? Those are the kind of questions I want to answer. Lydia became the 24th member on the team. Lydia, welcome to the team. I don't really know what that fully means. I'll be honest with you. The team, I don't really know what that means, but yeah. Money has a lot to do with the 14, which is the most important point in the penta. Penta lacking fixates. So this is where I love to geek out, because I'm totally when it comes to like personal awakening, and because when you're working with other people, it either works or it doesn't. And there's a realm of human design called BG5, penta analysis. We're able to look at families and businesses through the lens of part of the body graph sites. So if you come into a family missing the 14 and a penta money issue, right? Right. Well, it's actually funny because my family has me, which means they have the 14. But I'm pretty sure I don't think anyone has the 2 in my family, which is the link to that to activate that capacity. You need the 2. And again, this goes back to like I was saying earlier, is right. If you are Tim, I saw your appointment come through, man. I'm so excited to connect. Oh my gosh. So what does that mean? So when we're talking about, again, unraveling the issues of a personal being, it's different than the issues that a business will have, because a business is not a human being. A business is a transpersonal aura composed typically of a group of 3 to 5 people at the head level, and then various groups going down. He's still here. Okay, thanks. Yeah, Tim, I saw that, dude. I'm so pumped. Lydia, so I am drinking pu'er. I'm drinking some super hot black tea from China. It's very earthy, very remineralizing, has a fair amount of caffeine. It's black tea. And it gets me super zooted. Like by the end of this live, I'm gonna be like, ah! Which I'm stoked. And this is one thing as well that, like, in terms of my financial journey, since we were talking about money, I've my parents were never poor, but we were never rich either. Um, as things went on, and with inflation and everything, we started off as like upper middle class, but by the time I was like an adult, I yeah, we were, I wouldn't say lower middle class, but we definitely weren't going out as many vacations. Christmas time got smaller, and I noticed it as a kid, even though I didn't have much like financial literacy. I noticed that, hey, we don't like you don't just buy us whatever we want anymore, and not from like a spoiled point of view. It was just noticing the difference. Like, hey, there's not as many presents, or we're not going on as many trips. And my parents did their best to kind of like shield me from the realities of money and debt and all of that. And then of course I figured it out in college and learned, like, oh, our money system is super disproportionate when you look at the actual resource based value. Like, our economy is not based in resources and giving people what they need. Our economy is based more so in not self behaviors, in people being, I'm not pretty enough, so I need something to make me pretty. I'm not good enough, so I need something to make me good. Right. And so our whole economy is just based in fulfilling these not self desires. This is that why I say financial anxiety can be solved by proper deconditioning, by deeper acceptance of yourself and your form. So since awakening, I don't want to work a job, and I feel like everything might fall apart. I totally get this, Deanna. And again, not all jobs are evil. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. At a job can feel fake, but in a lot of ways, the stability of income is really helpful for a lot of types, especially people that are creatives or want to make something out of their creative process. I personally think that having a job puts less pressure on your creative endeavor needing to be the thing. And for a lot of people that are going through the deconditioning process, that's more graceful. Now, it's not to say that I'd rather be homeless than work for somebody else is a bad mentality. I'm just saying, for the majority of people, it doesn't need to be that harsh. And if you don't have the defined heart and you're not a manifester, that's usually not the road that you want to go. You being a manifester, Deanna, because you can just go initiate stuff, and your aura is going to work out in your favor. For generators, projectors, and reflectors, not to say the goal is a job, but the goal is a place to visit, not a place to stay. So I want to be an entrepreneur. Deanna, excellent. Because I think, honestly, manifestors are built for entrepreneurship. Literally, because you can just be initiating all day. The key about being a manifestor entrepreneur that doesn't burn out, the key for that is to have a team and know how to delegate, right? Know how to maybe even initiate a projector to help you create some systems, or a manifesting generator to help you to manage the systems, or a reflector to let you know how things are going and what you're missing. So Theo, and for anyone else that wants to know what they are, manifestor, projector, etc., just go to my website, reikimarker.com. You can generate your body graph. You just put in your information and it'll pop it out. It uses your birthday. You have to know your birth time. If you don't know your birth time, I recommend getting Neutrino Design. It's an app. It's also on my website for 25% off because me and the developer are best friends. Yeah, and once you have that information, again, there's a lot of things that you can do with the basic information. I really recommend getting one of my reports. I have a $20 report that will just like analyze the crap out of your body graph, tell you everything about every arrow and number. And if you want the 101 on human design, like what it is, how to apply it, etc., like what's my personal methods of how I approach human design, I sell that report for $15 extra. So it's $35 for the analysis that the $20 report gives you, and the 101 on human design, as well as some techniques on like how to embody it. And I've been talking about it for the past week or 2 weeks. I'm very soon going to have a really cool community with a totally revolutionary approach to human design that I have not seen yet. And the fact that I haven't seen it yet just makes me like that much more excited, not only because I have the 51st gate, which is like the will to be first, but primarily because I've been using this approach in my life and in my sessions with people, and it does wonders. It's really quite literally like a biohack for human design. So anyway, I think I'm in the deconstruction phase. I just started to build something for the first time ever. Deanna, yeah, that makes sense. And again, like when you're in the deconstruction phase in alchemy, that's called calcination. It's when you reduce something to its smallest parts, or effectively you burn it down. The phoenix bursts into flames and is reduced to ashes. This part is so important. Being reduced to ashes, dark night of the soul, the journey through the desert. After the Israelites were freed from Egypt, they wandered in the desert for years. Usui Sensei went up into the guy who brought Reiki to the world as in a public way. He went up the mountain for 21 days, and so there's this reduction that has to happen for you to like have a blank canvas to work with. Because if you don't do that, if you don't see how you're showing up in the world right now, you can't change any of the patterns because you can't see what's actually going on. I'm saying too much. Guys, I'm literally so excited about this community. Because it's something that I've been working on for like probably like 3 years. I've been working on what this community is going to look like, and how it's going to work, and what's going to be included, and it's almost ready for you guys, and I'm so stoked. 41, the start of experience is called decrease after all. I love that, right? Decrease, and that's also the end, right? Because in alchemy, you have there's 2 stages of alchemy and 7 steps. And let's see if I can remember this. Okay, there's calcination, gate 41. This would be a really cool little like thing to do. I'm gonna write it down so I don't forget. But and so okay, you get your report by going to my website, generating your body graph, and then after you generate your body graph, you'll see an option underneath the body graph to buy a report. Again, there's a $20 one. I recommend the Reiki report, especially if you're like new to human design and you're like, how do I even use this? Because the analysis of your report is incredibly insightful, but it's kind of like a lot of pieces that are, like puzzle pieces that hasn't been put together. In the Reiki report, you still get all the separate puzzle pieces, but I give you a picture of the whole thing of like, hey, this is kind of what it's supposed to, how you're supposed to put it together. So, okay. Okay, so back to the alchemy, and yeah, that's cool. So alchemy, okay, the way it starts is calcination, which is the reduction of the parts, which is gate 41. Then what you do is you have to separate things. Say, okay, this is what we want to use, this is what we don't want to use, right? This is where human design becomes a wonderful mental framework for being like, okay, these are the types of activities that I participate in, these are the types of relationships that I participate in that are not self. These are the things that I'm doing, not because it's good for me and satisfies my sacral or you fills me with vitality and activates my spleen. It's because, oh, it makes so and so happy, right? These are the people pleaser tendencies. After you separate things, sorry, there's a distillation process first. So you take everything so it's calcination, reduction, gate 41. Then there's distillation, which is like having everything rise to the surface, like all the things that you want to become more aware of, the ability to see yourself. Then the third step of separation happens, which is choosing which parts you're going to use in the next experiment and which parts you're not. Then you take the things that you separated and the stuff that you've thrown away, and that goes away. And everything that you have left, it's called conjunction. You put it together. Now, this is where it stops. This is where the human's part in the alchemy stops. Okay. Because up until this point, it's a very like physical and mental experience. After you've put it together, essentially that could be you could look at that as maybe like gate 10, in terms of like behavior of the self, like what behaviors are appropriate for me. Once it's put together and you've done those 4 steps, then you enter into like letting God take the wheel, or the more mystical parts of it. The whole process of alchemy is incredibly mystical. But then after it's been put together physically by you, then it goes into a state of fermentation. This is when it's an isolated experiment, and you can see this with kombucha. They do this with beer. They do this with, and beer and alcohol is actually a result of traditional Hermetic alchemy, because they use alcohol to perform a lot of the extractions and a lot of the how you say distillations in their process, because they're working with physical matter. But anyway, after that, there's fermentation, distillation, and then coagulation, which is a sort of like, instead of you putting things together, it's like the process puts the thing together, and then you have your alchemical gold, or you have your transformed consciousness, which for the alchemists are the same thing. Then that burns down and you're right back at step 1. And that's exactly how our DNA sequences work. I can't cite any studies because they haven't been done yet, but I go out on a limb and say that when we start to gain the ability to look at the DNA more clearly and understand the implications of it, we're going to look at body graphs, and we're going to look at some of the work specifically that I'm doing with the body graph and my approach to human design. And we're going to be like, oh, okay, so there are like little like secret moves that you can do that are specific to your body graph that are going to activate you. Cool. I'm saying too much. But it's okay. We're gonna have this thing up and running pretty soon. Mr. Clap, what's going on? Renee, where do I find gate info? Manifester that is struggling to overcome imposter syndrome. So Renee, 2 places I recommend. You can get one of my reports, or you can get the app. That'll have a lot of information on the gates. If you like things like very straightforward and you just want to focus on yourself, get the report. If you want to learn about other people and how the gates apply to other people, get the app. The information about the gates in the app and in my reports are slightly different. Not in essence, but just in wording and the way that the information is shared. They're slightly different, but they are speaking to the exact same thing. It's like if you're looking at the moon from, one island in Hawaii, and then on another island, you're also looking at the same moon. It's the same moon. You're just looking at it from a different perspective. So it's a little different. Yes, it's the community is going to be in its fullest form an app, but what we're going to eventually do is just turn it into an app. But for now, it's going to be a little bit more how you say early entry type stuff. So we're going to let people in early before the app is officially launched, just so that when the app is launched and it's polished, the idea, guys, and this is, and stick with me real quick. there's not a lot of human design communities that I see that are um, really offering anything more than like a place to like talk about human design. And as someone who has been all talk in my relationships and in my career, it's something that I had to confront, and I had to learn how to I had to learn how to I had to move through it. I had to alchemize the let's just talk about this spiritual stuff, right? One example is when I was a Reiki master and I was doing like Reiki for literal millionaires and billionaires. There were several times where I had to tell my client, "Hey, I can't work with you because I can't work with you anymore because all of the work that we're doing, you're just kind of throwing it away and you're just regressing. And so I don't want my energy to be used in that way." And that ended up being one of the greatest lessons because I got messages, or I got a message a year later from one of those clients saying, "Hey, that really shook me. I value our relationship so much." He was kind of dismissive at the time when I made that comment and made that decision. But it's important that we actually have um yes, I fired a client because she refused to do her homework. I love that. Firing clients is great because for a lot of reasons it's because we don't want to. And Mr. Cloud, you seem like you're very much so like myself. Is I don't want to enable people to like feel like they're doing something that they're not actually doing, right? And again, this community, this human design community that we're creating is is primarily going to be focused around actions. Like there's a step in between, or there's a step that precedes strategy and authority with our method that again, no one is talking about it, but it's so simple. It's so simple, and when you guys hear about it, and when you see how it works, you're gonna be like, it's like, and one thing that I would say as well. And Prana is funny because I watched some of your dad's videos, and he's incredibly mystical with it. Um, and there is something to the hands and the feet and the ears and the face and the body. Like these are fractals of each other, right? And so when we approach human design through the lens of like somatic healing and somatic therapy, there's a like I said, a something else that emerges beyond me needs some help getting him out of his knowing. Yeah, I feel you on that. I'll have to look at his chart too, because it's definitely, yeah, exactly. Going beyond the knowing. It's like actually turning it into um systems, which again can be corrupted and can create stagnation. But this is where like the balance or the harmony between chaos and order is a beautiful thing. So they got to be willing to release bad programming and get a clear connection. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and a lot of people are not ready for it, and as a professional, one of your duties, if someone is not ready to let go of something, is to acknowledge that. Hey, look, you're not ready to move on to the next step. I'm not going to take you there because it would be irresponsible of me. And you're not paying me to like, you off. You're paying me to be real with you and give you like sound, solid, objective advice. Yeah, and it's coming, Prana. I'm really excited because again, I haven't really spoken to you even much about it, but yeah, this community is going to be so next level, so next level. And eventually, my aspirations, and these aren't promises because I haven't built them into the system yet, but my aspirations are eventually to, for members of the community that have been active and participating and experiencing results, we're going to take some of that membership and make an event and an experience that you're going to get a VIP entrance to. And by VIP entrance, I mean like, hey, fly to Maui. We got a big house. There's 20 rooms, and this is the base cost of all of the things. You just got to get yourself here, and we're going to spend a weekend together, and all of us just hang out. So it's going to have, it's a membership that is going to have a tangible in-person experience as a part of the membership, but really only for those people that are going to actually use and experience the transformation within themselves. We're gonna reward based off merit, and we'll know because it's a community. So we'll see who's active, who's sharing their results. It's gonna be exciting, guys. So this app that I'm talking about right now, the community app, it's not ready yet. The app itself won't be ready for probably until like spring of 2025. However, the community will be available through a progressive web app. So it will be available through a web page as soon as, I mean, guys, I'm trying to get this up and running. I'm trying to get this up and running by like December 5th, roughly. But if we need an app for human design and just like if you want like the best, in my opinion, the best layout, aesthetic, information, features in a human design app, that is available, and that is, you can download that via the link in my bio. You can also get it on the App Store, but if you go through the link in my bio, you get 25% off, which is really not that much. It's super affordable. I think it's the most affordable human design app as well. It's like $37 for the year, which is the best deal ever. And if you go through me, you get it for like 26 a year. So again, little tiny discount, but I'm all about that Robin Hood life. Like I want people to have this information, and I don't want them to break the bank, but I can't give it away for free. And we can't give it away for free because the thing about free is that free inherently says something along the lines of you don't have to give anything up to receive anything. And that's just not inherently true. With human design, you have to give up your old conditioning in order to get the life that you are actually born to live. You have to let go of money in order to receive things. So it's not like a gouge, you know. $26 for the app for the whole year. It's crazy. And it's a good app too. And then there's features in there that are like other human design apps haven't even thought about this kind of stuff, guys. So anyway, Renee, I'm just learning about my human design. This wasn't taught in my Reiki master training. There's a lot of stuff that you didn't learn in your Reiki master training. Do you want me to go off on that, Renee? I could probably tell you some things about Reiki that your Reiki master either doesn't know or they don't want you to know. It's nothing bad. It's just like the transition from Eastern style Reiki, where its origins are in Japan, to Western style Reiki. It's like it totally got commodified. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying it totally got bastardized. Like the yes, please. Okay, great. Let's go. That's it. I'm still in denial. That's okay, man. That's okay. There's a time for denial. There's a time for every feeling, right? Let's see. I don't change for my first 2 meetings with new clients. Yeah, I don't think we should ever change for anybody unless it's actually like it's inspired change. Like I want to be better. It's different. Anyway, so with Reiki, the way they used to do it in the East was very different. You know, it was very different in the sense of, you know, it wasn't like, hey, come get a Reiki session and, you know, how you say, come get a Reiki session and then learn Reiki 1 and then learn Reiki 2 and then learn Reiki 3 and Reiki 4. What it is, they did it in the East. It was very different. It was like, hey, come to our ceremonies. We are going to hold like a Reiki space for people to be in a Reiki space. And the people that came and showed up and actually healed themselves, or they actually they improved their well-being, those people were invited to learn the techniques. And then those people would then hold the space for the people that would come in. So it was much less like a workshop and more like a church, actually. And if you were lucky enough to be there long enough and help enough people, then you were starting to elevate into kind of like senior status. So I'd love to come out to Hawaii, hang out with you. Oh my God, I love Hawaii. Yeah. So again, this is what I'm talking about is I kind of want that OG Reiki vibe. You know, and this is kind of what my lives are. My lives are like the original kind of Reiki circles. that Usui would do. And it's just like, hey, whoever comes gets benefits, learns, starts applying this in their own life. I'm not going to like teach you my method and how to do this. You have to see it and want to learn it and figure it out on your own. And I have tons of resources that are helping, right? Gingerbread Lady, thank you so much. Thanks for the follow. Thanks for the message of elevating the collective. That's my goal. I want to elevate the collective, but I also want to descend the collective. I want the collective, I want the individual to descend into their body. And I want them to use human design. I want them to use sensory mechanics, biomechanics, and Reiki to descend into the body, to surrender to the form. This is what human design is all about. The body graph is not here as a way of telling you who you are. It's a way of letting you know what type of body you have, what type of aura and energetics you have, and how best to utilize it. And it's not, you have to see for yourself. There's plenty of people who like start learning about human design, but they're not actually cultivating self-awareness. They're just learning a bunch of information about a new system. Yeah. If you called simples. What does that mean? So anyway, back to the Reiki thing. The reason we have Reiki in the West was because Usui Sensei, with what was going on, was beautiful. People were getting a lot of healing and learning the skills. But there was a stagnation happening within what was called the Gakkai, which is like the Usui Sensei Reiki Ryoho Reiki system, Gakkai, like the family. And this is what happens. And you see it happen primarily today. You see it happen with the story and the life of Jesus, right? So many people say stuff, and then afterwards they say in Jesus's name, right? And so what that means is that the things that people are saying oftentimes are not actually true to Christ's teachings. The stories that are shared about him now are not always focused on his actual teachings. They're focused on ways of leveraging the system and the credibility of the system and the name so that they can get whatever they want. Plenty of churches out here don't give a damn about helping people. All they want is tax breaks. And what's messed up, even more messed up, is that a lot of those churches think they're helping people, but they're actually just lining their pockets, and they're unaware of the fact that they're doing that. So with that being said, the Gakkai, the original Reiki group, right? Usui Sensei said, all I have to do, instead of like trying to change this group, which was brilliant, instead of trying to change this group, I'm just going to teach someone that's outside of that group some Reiki. Because before Usui Sensei, there were actually a handful of other families and very like private groups that were practicing hands-on healing. So Usui Sensei wasn't the first one to like put hands on people and have them experience healing. What happened was he taught an ex-Navy officer named Dr. Chihiro. He said, I want to teach you this Reiki, but I don't want you to do it like these guys are doing it. I want you to like allow it to change. They're stagnated in their ways. Let it change. And so it's like Dr. Chihiro did a couple things, a lot of treatments in the initial Reiki were sitting up. They were focusing on the spine. You had one, like one healer at a time. Dr. Chihiro created a little bit more, incline, had people lay down, introduced focusing on the organs, introduced using multiple people on one person at a time. And so, what happened was mutation. This is not the way we do Reiki, but Reiki is still flowing here. So what is this? Eventually, Dr. Chihiro taught a woman named Hawayo Takata. This was in the 70s. She flew to Japan from Hawaii and learned Reiki, received a lot of benefits from the actual healing practice herself, and became the first foreigner Reiki master. Right? Dr. Chihiro, who was attuned by Usui Sensei, the top of the top, he attuned the first woman and the first foreigner to a master degree. And he said exactly what Usui Sensei said. He said, hey, Hawayo Takata, take this, let it spread. People need to know about Reiki. And so when she brought it to Hawaii, the culture shock didn't work. And so Hawayo Takata had to commodify it. She had to bastardize it. Otherwise, it wouldn't take root in the West. And what she did was she introduced the levels, and she introduced the how you say, the exchanges, and the, hey, you pay me and I'm going to, you know, teach you this wisdom and certify you and orally initiate you into this lineage. And there was actually I read that she would charge like $10,000 to learn Reiki Master. And I think that's badass, because you know the amount of money that you put in to stuff like Reiki, to stuff like human design, the return on your investment is so in proportionate. Like, the best investment that you can make is always in yourself. Like, if you're thinking of buying a new car and you're like, man, I don't have enough money to buy this new car, don't buy the new car. Invest that money into yourself. Now, what do you need? I don't know. I don't know you. But if we had a conversation, I very quickly could figure out what it is that what the investment that you need to make into yourself is. A lot of the times for people, and this is going to sound weird, but a lot of the times the investment that they need to make is in their physical health. You need to be accountable to a coach or a personal trainer or someone to help you dial in your physical body. Because again, there's so many people that know so much about human design, but they walk all weird. Their postures are messed up. Their bodies are in a lot of pain. I don't want that. I do not want that. It doesn't matter how much you know about human design. If you have not figured out how to harmonize your mental awareness of human design and your knowledge of human design with your physical body, I'm not going to follow you anywhere. That's the hard truth. Just as well, if you've got the physical dialed in, but your mind isn't there, I'm not going to follow that either. Like, I have high standards for the people that I follow, and I encourage you to do the same. Aiming too high, it's the opposite, that they're aiming too low. Because if you aim high, if you're around people that are smarter than you, stronger than you, healthier than you, more attractive than you, just by reverse osmosis, you're going to be elevated and pulled up. But if you're around people that are at a lower level of consciousness, lower level of health, lower level of communication, you will, even if you're not a reflector, you will kind of sink down into that vibration, which is not something you want. I mean, at least I don't think so. So Reiki was my introduction to spirituality, right? I seem to get stuck in training instead of action. Yeah, a lot of people do, because it's safe. It's safe to train. You know, it's safe to just learn a bunch of information and not integrate it and apply it. It's risky. It's risky, but it's like, you know, if you're a musician, it's like writing songs that, you know, because you're so self-conscious, you never perform them. No one ever hears them, and you never get to touch people with your process. You never get to touch people with your art. It's the same thing with human design. If you just learn human design but you never actually start applying it, and actually, it sucks ass for you and for everyone, but mostly for you, straight up. As a reflector and knowing how influential others are on me, I've pushed so many away, even loved ones. Yes, exactly. And this is so hard, because our loved ones and our family are part of our tribal network. They're part of, you know, when you're a baby, you need them. When you're a baby, you need them to. As you get older, you don't need them anymore, but you have needed them in the past. There's this loyalty that is makes sense societally, but a lot of the times just doesn't work. You know, oh, I'm loyal to my dad because he struggled so much to make you know, a good life for me and my brother, etc. Well, where are you at now? Right? Like, is that loyalty serving the relationship, or do you need to change the dynamic, push them away a little bit more, or bring them closer if they're willing? But the reality is again, as an adult, you live your own life. If you want to blame somebody else for the reason why things are the way they are, have fun with that. But this community does not do that. And if you are the kind of person that does that and you don't want to do that, you're in the right place. We're not looking for perfection. I just want participation. I just want the awareness of like, yes, I do that, and this is how I do that, and I'm wanting to change that. So anyway, Illumina divine good info, but following outward beauty is still the blind leading the blind. When did we say following outward beauty? It takes loyalty to get loyalty from me. Right. And it's funny because I used to be the kind of person that was like, oh, um, you know, uh, I like you until you give me a reason not to. And I'm still that way. But I don't really like you unless you would give me a reason to really like you. And as a reflector, that's something that is kind of rare. And the people that I really like typically are like the weird people, or people that people would consider weird, like the unique ones, right? The ones that say, hey, look, I don't really care what you think about what I'm doing. This is what I love to do, and I'm really good at it, and I enjoy it. I appreciate that kind of stuff. Even if they're like preaching things that are counter to what I preach and what I share, I just appreciate that everyone has a different perspective. I think most people are shit until they prove otherwise. Yeah, I'm kind of in that camp as well. And it's just, unfortunately, it's just the numbers that have shown me that. It's the amount of people that you know um want to change but are still haven't developed the courage to change. And I want to change that, which is why I created my community, because one of the things that I've recognized as a obstacle to the deconditioning process is being alone and not having a community of people that are engaged in the human design experiment in a similar fashion. Because again, traditional human design, the experiment is decondition yourself by using your strategy and authority and learning about your body graph so that you can accept yourself and see yourself. The approach that we're bringing is quite literally, um what are, I'm not going to say it even because it's not ready, but it's so cool, guys. Anyway, okay. I'm gonna side back. Prana, thank you. Reflectors want to be surprised. Most people disappoint big time. Most people disappoint themselves because instead of doing the thing that they actually want to do or sharing the music that they actually want to share, they're so afraid of what other people are going to think about them. So anyway, that's me right now, alone without a community who want to see themselves want and grow. Yeah. And again, in Tim, because we've been cruising for a while, bro. And you see, you were there in the Discord era when I was like really on top of Discord, and that was awesome. And it also wasn't structured in a way that actually would make it sustainable. And so, Discord was sort of like a prototype of the community, but we also didn't have the actual method refined enough. But this is for you, bro. And one of the things that really how you say excites me about having this kind of community, because this is stuff that again we've been working with people, certain people, with this method for the past year, 2 years ish. We've been developing the method for 3 years. And the stuff, guys, it's like, I'm like, wait, so 18 months ago when we started, you were here, and now 18 months later, this is where you are. Like, you were broke, homeless, fat, and now you're not necessarily loaded, but you have steady income, you have a beautiful home, you're super fit now. Oh, and you have a beautiful woman in your life. I can't take credit for that, but the only thing you did different was meet me and start doing things approaching human design the way I do. So I suppose I could take credit a little bit. But again, that person did it. And that's what's important is, and I made a video today that I thought was pretty damn good. The best part of it was the last clip where I said the biggest danger of human design is when people fall in love with the system over using the system to fall in love with themselves. Tim, love you, bro. Many blessings. See you next week. Yes. Just, I love sessions with reflectors so much because, for a long time, I never felt truly seen as an individual. And it wasn't that people couldn't or they didn't acknowledge me or like see me. It was that I genuinely in my heart felt like your experience is just so different than mine. And when I started working with reflectors and I started kind of like digging into their lives, we have so many shared experiences. And if you're a reflector on here or you don't know what type you are, reflector is only 1% of the population. So it's very rare. And the reflectors are the beings that are here to basically like be the reflection of the health or lack of health, the vital, the how you say, you know, um, the reflection of the, oh, this is working or this is not working. And so a lot of the times reflectors, because so many people are still operating from a mental only perspective and they've yet to actually incorporate and use their aura and their physical bodies, a lot of reflectors, they get the shit stick. They get the, oh man, you're the reason this is falling apart, especially if they're fifth line projectors. And so I really highly recommend, especially if you don't know what your type is, go figure out what your type is. Because if you're a reflector, I guarantee when you start reading and learning about reflectors, you're going to be like, oh, this explains a lot, a lot. And I want that for you because once you see what the chart has to say about you, again, then you can actually go about experimenting with the process of deconditioning. Deconditioning is quite simply the experiment of seeing your adaptive strategies or like your survival mechanisms, right? You'll be able to see your survival mechanisms that have become solidified in your behavior. And as you see them, the deconditioning process is that when you see these things and you recognize their impact and you become more aware of them, you're able to actually step into your natural self. It's not about healing or making any of that shit go away. I don't think you can. But there is a way to leverage whatever conditioning you have so that you can actually go along and actually live your own life. Apparently, many reflectors become law enforcement looking for those who step out of balance. Oh my God, that's hilarious. I could see that. I mean, it's funny again because it's like, a lot of people ask, right? Like, hey, what's the best role for, or what's the best career for this type or this profile? And there are definitely like certain careers that are more attractive to certain profiles and certain types. But I don't like that question because it implies that you can't just be useful anywhere. Like you might be more useful doing something over here, but maybe you enjoy this more. Which one do you do? Well, I mean, whichever one do you want to be useful or do you want to enjoy it? I don't know. You're the person making the decision, not me. I'm just gonna let you know. Get back in your place instead of let's help you differentiate. Right. And so that's where a lot of the deconditioning process that I'm looking at with human design, especially with a lot of like not necessarily traditional human designs people that have been studying human design for years, but for all those people that like learned human design last year and now teaching courses on it, there's this rigidity to the system, this adoption of like, hey, just this is who you are now, do this. And it's from this, you're manipulating yourself rather than creating spaciousness and differentiating yourself. A lot of I see kind of like insta guru type people that are taking human design and turning it into like a new age astrology kind of thing. It's not. It's not. At least not to me. And I guarantee you, Ra is like rolling around in his grave watching some of these people. But I hope he actually comes out of the grave for what I'm about to do, because I'm about to drop some heresy on the world of human design. Without breaking the system, I'm gonna break the system. But that's what I was designed to do. I'm a reflector. And so, and it's the same thing that happened. And it's actually how Prana and I got connected, was because for the longest time, there was only one human design app that you could have on your phone. And it had papyrus font on it. And it was wonderful because it was the only one. And then someone in my Discord community introduced me to neutrino design. And I saw neutrino design and I said, oh my God, this blows the other one out of the water. It's a more efficient tool. The user interface is cleaner. The aesthetic is better. The font, I love the font. It has a dark mode. You can view things in mandala view. And then they started doing things like adding the weekly match feature and creating a note section. So as a reflector, you know, if someone invites me to do something, and I want to remember 28 days from now, I can write a note in my app, link it to the lunar transit that's current, and then in 28 days, when the moon goes transits all around and comes back to that gate, I'll have the note there. Like, I got an invitation to this. How do I feel about it? Then I can reflect back and be like, oh, wow, that's fun. So, what was I talking about? The heresy, the mutation, systems that are not built, or systems that are built to like last forever, in my opinion. They may last forever, but they become corrupted. You know, I got glitches. Yeah, I mean we're in the jungle, so hopefully next month I'm going to be getting a Starlink, and our internet quality will go up. So hopefully it will be. But I'm going to drop some heresy on the system. And again, it's not going to demolish or discredit anything that human design is doing. It's just, in my opinion, a revolutionary approach. And for anyone that's been working with me, it's very nuanced. It's very, how you say, unsuspecting as well. Very unsuspecting approach. In the sense that you wouldn't think to approach human design that way. But it works. And it works well. But anyway, enough about that. I will have a sign up page for you guys soon. Just dialing in the technicalities of it. And also, it's going to be early entry. It's not going to be the full archive with the app. It's going to be early entry, so it's not as, again, it's like a, how you say. Prana said it great the other day about 3.5 profiles being the ones who are like max testing Tesla Cybertrucks. That's kind of how it is. We're going to max test it. And, you know, one of the promises that we have is that you're going to be able to do the human design deconditioning experiment without having to learn a bunch about human design. Like, straight up, you won't have to learn a ton of stuff to engage in your deconditioning experiment. That's actually one of the big myths in my opinion about human design, is that you have to know everything about the system in order to successfully decondition. It's not true. There are plenty of people who just follow their intuition. They just follow their internal inspiration and they live their design perfectly, and they know nothing about human design. And when they're introduced to it and someone is like, hey, this and this and this and this, they're like, oh yeah, I know that. I know that too. Yep, I definitely know that. I know that. I know that as well. They might find some things that are like, oh, I didn't know that, but that's interesting. But those people don't necessarily see human design for the value that it has, because they already have the value that it promises. They're already living their own lives. And I call that an unconscious competent. Right? They're competent with what they do and using their aura and their body, etc., but they're not aware of why. They're not aware of how. And so, again, there's just so many facets of this that are super, like, more accessible than people want to make it. Right? Everyone wants like a really complex kind of like, oh, it can't be that simple, can it? Use your strategy and authority. It can't be that simple. So actually, it can. And for me, and the approach that we're gonna be sharing with you guys soon here, is it's actually even more simple than just using your strategy and authority. Because strategy and authority as well is like, they're mental perspectives, right? Like, for instance, if you're a generator, the strategy is to listen to your gut. But if you're thinking, what is my gut saying? As opposed to actually bringing your awareness into your body and tuning into what energy is being created or what energy is not being created, right? You can be stuck in the head with strategy and authority. Oh, TikTok is making me verify my humanity. Awesome. So anyway, like I said, that'll be available soon, you guys. Like real soon. We're getting super close. Anyway, again, it's all about embodied awareness. I cannot stand these lotus eater, guru types. Especially because I feel like I was totally one of those people. As a reflector, there's so many people like that to reflect, and people in like very high spaces. And I've worked with some top, you call them top spiritual leaders in the world, and the person that they are live, the person that they are on, that their audience knows them as, and the person that they actually are in their real life are two totally different people, and it's very disappointing. TikTok, no one has hair that luxurious. I know, for real, right? They're like, wait a second, is this an AI? Which, dude, I'll message you after the live, Prana. I've got some very interesting AI things to share with you. Yeah, which is like, and social media is so crazy in the way that it has connected us all. Because now more than ever, it has become easier and simultaneously more challenging to be yourself. It has never been this easy to be yourself. It has also never been this challenging to be yourself. I tell my clients, warning, I come raw, and it's how I am in real life, so I don't change it. Yeah. And so, and again, anyone that knows me, or yeah, anyone that knows me is like, when I come and talk about human design, I'm actually just more excited because there's people that are hearing it for the first time and light bulbs are going off. So I'm just more excited. But I'm the same in my day-to-day life. All my sessions, a lot of my reviews are like that. It's like, Marco, if you go Google Reiki Marco, and you'll see my reviews, people are like, Marco is exactly the way that he is in his videos, and it's so refreshing and authentic to meet someone that like presents themselves and actually shows up as the same person. And it's funny because I'm a reflector, and one of the things that you hear about reflectors is that you'll get a different version of me depending on who you are. And while that's true, it's also not true. I used to change myself a lot for people. I don't do that as much anymore. Just because I have all open centers doesn't mean I haven't developed ways of being that really work well for me. Like, one of the things, and this is great for anyone that is feels easily or is how you say, intimidated by like group settings and maybe overwhelmed by social events. And I mean like larger social events. This tip is going to blow your mind, okay? And you may have heard it before or thought about it, but not in this way. Okay, so the tip is quite simply, don't hug people. Don't touch anybody. When you go to the event, there's an expectation that when you see people that that you're supposed to have some kind of interaction with them. And that is one of the reasons why you get drained. You get drained because every time you touch someone, or you're within 10 feet of someone, or you're having a conversation, you're weaving with their energy. And any of the energies that you have or they have are going to get exchanged, especially if you're like in a spiritual community where people like to give really long hugs. And so the tip is, don't hug anybody. And I don't mean like let people know like, hey, I'm not hugging. Just when you see someone, it's, yo, what's up? You don't open yourself, you don't go in for it. Mind blown. I know, it's funny because it's like such a simple thing, but like, realize that a lot of these social expectations that you have, they're not hard truths. Okay, you might be viewed as like impolite. One of your friends might be like, hey, how come you didn't hug me? And you can just explain to them, well, it's a lot of energy to interact in that way, and I want to still interact with people, but I don't want to like bog my energy down. And this I would say this is definitely more relevant for the non-sacral types, but definitely relevant for generators and manifesting generators too. And so this is just one of those societal norms that's like, oh, if you don't hug everyone, then you're going to be excommunicated from the tribe. But if you're part of a community that doesn't respect the fact that you don't want to interact with people based off social norms and that you don't want to absorb other people's energies and all that stuff, if they don't like that, find a new tribe, dude. Straight up. Because there's a lot of, how you say, wounded leadership and a lot of um, shadow teacher guru type energy in the new age space, and it increases your history. Exactly, Prana. Like, for instance, especially for the generators and manifesting generators, next time you go to an event, instead of going and saying hi to your friends, instead of doing all the things, go somewhere. And if you know what your environment is, find the place that most resembles your environment. So if you're a kitchens person, go in the kitchen, right? Or go into the mixer area. If you're a markets person, hang out where tickets get sold or where merch gets sold. If you're a valley person, go find the lowest point of the party and go sit there. If you're a mountain person, go find the highest point of the party and go sit there. If you're a caves person, go find the cave and hang out in the cave. If you're a shores person, hang out in the areas in between. Those are all the environments. But the reason I say this is because don't just do what you always do. If you're deconditioning yourself, experiment with something new, which in terms of using your strategy and authority, and this is what I mean by people can get in their head. They might get in their head about like, oh, I'm going to this party and my sacral has energy to go say hi to my friends. That's going to feel good for me. Oh yeah, great. Rather than, instead of anticipating your sacral, go to your environment at the event. Don't like hug a bunch of people. Go to the environment and just sit there and just be that mysterious person that's just waiting for something to respond to. And when someone comes up to you and asks, what are you doing? Just tell them, I'm just waiting for something to respond to. Because if I saw someone, and this is the thing, I'm a reflector, so I'd notice as soon as that person gets into that state where they're actually waiting for something to respond to, or they're waiting for an invitation, I'm curious and I want to go investigate. That's my 3-5 reflectorness. I'm like, hey, what are you up to? Oh, I'm just waiting to respond. I'm like, oh, have fun with them. Listen to your heart and body, not the head limited. Well, it's not that don't listen to your head. It's that just recognize the value of the head for what it is, not for what you want it to be. And the value of the head and the ajna and the, how you say, they're helping you contextualize the external world. They're using they're using like the reality around you to create a hologram of it in your mind so that you can understand it, so that you know how to interact with the external world and what's going on in the external world. That's why they're above the throat in terms of manifestation. And there's no motors up here. There's no energy up here. It's awareness and pressure, which is different than motor, which is different than energy. Your sacral, your root, your heart, your solar plexus, these are going to create energy. The ajna just creates awareness. Or handles awareness. The head just handles pressure. And while pressure is enough to instigate things, it's not proper in terms of you actually being involved in something. If you're going to be involved in something, you want your motors involved. You want energy being created inside you that wants to be involved. Because this is the difference between doing a project because you're lit up every day by it and doing a project because the project needs to get done. Which do you want to do? Whatever you practice is what will become permanent and what you will do over and over and over again. Excuse me, I gotta pee. And we're back. So if you guys are enjoying the live, thank you for enjoying. That's most important to me, is that you're getting some kind of value at it. If you can tap the screen and we can get this ranking up, that would be awesome. Sharing the live also super helps. I do have subscriptions here on TikTok, which I'm To be honest, I'm focused on my community. But if you want to subscribe and just support the channel in that way, subscriptions are available. But really, I just want you to like use this information and make your life awesome. That's really what I want. I have reports for sale. I have one-on-one sessions. I have an app for you guys to use in terms of human design. Soon, I'm going to have a community app for you guys to use, which is going to be crazy. But that's coming soon. But thank you guys so much for just being here. I'm going to check in with my calendar and make sure I don't have a session at 11 that I have to get ready for. Okay, that's where we're at. Wonderful. So something that let's see, what's the name of that community app? It's not ready yet, Julia. It's not ready yet. When I do launch it and open it up, it'll still be early access. Like, it's like, have you guys ever been to a festival early? Like, I love getting early access to festivals. Carrie, can't wait. I love all your practical info. Thank you so much, Carrie. I'm making this app. I'm making this community for people like you. Because again, you know, there's so much like not practical information, or just, you know, sheer quality of information is terrible, or the mass of information is just overwhelming. I'm like, what are the actual things that we need to focus on? Anyway, have you ever been to a festival early? I love going to festivals early entry, because normally the way festivals work or events work, you know, is there's a grand opening and everyone goes in. But for people that want to pay a little bit extra, you get to go in early and you get to like watch the party emerge. That's one of my favorite things, is getting to a party early and watching and seeing the party evolve into something as individuals come in and join the collective party. I love, because I'm a reflector. Like I said, I'm looking for the generator that shows up and is actually waiting to respond, rather than just learning a bunch about human design but doing all the same things. You know, it's important. It's very important to me. So the community will be early entry. So you should make it out to Solar Punk Summit next year. It's one of our events. Infinite You, send me an invitation. So I'm a father of a 2-year-old, and I'm a homebody. But once this thing launches, guys, I'm anticipating that it's gonna make me very busy. And so I'm super open to events. Solar Punk Summit sounds freaking awesome, by the way. I would love to go to that. Where's that located? Send me some info, please. All our events are family friendly and focused. I love that too. Yeah, if I can get my partner and our baby on a plane, we'll see. But if it's for something like that, that might be awesome. Texas. Okay, I got some good people in Texas. I know. What part of Texas? I love that your events are family friendly and focused. I mean, Solar Punk Summit and Solar Punk. If you don't know what Solar Punk is, go Google it or look it up here on TikTok. It's probably the coolest, in my opinion. It's the coolest, how you say, neo genre out there near Austin, San Antonio. Cool. Infinite You, please send me some information, my friend. I would love to look into attending or participating, speaking, or maybe even music. Yeah, send me some info. I appreciate that. But what are you talking about? Oh, Solar Punk. It's like a future where humanity has harmonized with technology, and it's like very bright, and like, you know, the robots are like very organic looking, and they're helping humans like farm and tend to the land and live these like very holistic lifestyles. It's very wholesome. And it's what I envision the future looking like. And just to give you guys a roadmap, and if you're not aware, part of human design looks at global incarnation crosses, basically like global themes and ages that humanity will move through in its evolution. And the idea that is really exciting is in 2027, there's going to be a shift. We're going to shift from an age that has been very focused on infrastructure and communities and I'll take care of you, you take care of me. We're shifting from that to a what's called the cross of the sleeping phoenix, which is much more about the individual self-empowerment. See, check out my latest videos of what I manifested. It's got the 2027 date on it. I love it. Yes, I definitely check it out, man. Um, but with 2027 and what this community I'm envisioning, right? In 2027, there's going to be the beginning of what are called the rave children or rave human beings. Essentially, these are going to be human beings that are born with fully matured emotional centers, meaning that right now we have emotions that are simultaneously energizing as well as creating awareness. So you have emotional awareness, but a lot of the times that emotional awareness gets clouded over by emotional energy. And if you don't use the awareness and the emotional energy together and refine that emotional energy, it leads to all kinds of things of like, how you say, um, just all kinds of distortions, just emotional decision making. And the rave humans that are going to be born in 2027, they'll be babies at first, but eventually they'll grow into humans. They're going to have fully matured awareness centers. So it's not going to be this like emotional decision making. It's more like the awareness that we have, like when something's wrong in our body. It's like, oh, like there's something wrong with the emotions. It's going to be like, there's something off. I need to move through a process before I can do. I can't do that. I'm aware, and I need to address the awareness that I have. And so with 2027, and we're on the crux of this, right? Like it's going to happen in 2 years, well, almost 2 years. This shift is going to happen. And part of my plan with this community is that this community is going to be one of the several other communities that are disconnected, but connected through purpose, that are going to help create spaces for these children to become adults and not be totally fucked up by the people who want to hang on to the old infrastructures and the way that we used to do things. Infinite you have an opportunity to become a board member on the Office of Sustainability. Oh my gosh. I'll be building San Antonio on a solar punk trajectory. Infinite you, I am down, homie. I am down. I want this is beautiful where you're at, Infinite you, because you are part of the bridge. You know, I do not feel inspired to be or sitting on any board in terms of legislation or municipal stuff. And personally, that's not me. I'm a heretic, so I'm just going to go do the thing. But we need people that are going to be in that position where they're entering into the medical field with degrees. They're entering into politics to help create changes, because it's not just going to be like the lights are going to turn off on all the infrastructure that we have, although that could very well happen. It's important to have a smooth transition. And if everyone is like me, trying to do the things that I do it and make change the way that I make it, we're not going to get anywhere. You have to do it in your own way. So we are working on creating a coherent network of off-grid communities for the transition. Dude, that sounds freaking awesome. Because it's like I'm can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Exactly. And then and in terms of government, right? Democracy, republic, all of this stuff, it works to a degree, and there's something better. So Crone, I'm talking about the transition from the cross of planning, which is where we're in currently, that ends in 2027, and the world enters into the cross of the sleeping phoenix, which you're starting to see it already. Governments, all of these infrastructures and systems, like the new president is like, I'm going to destroy a bunch of these super inefficient government systems. So it's quite literally happening in front of our eyes. Simultaneously, you have a bunch of people that are saying, I don't care about that. I'm just going to create my own off-grid property and for my family and stuff. It's the rise of fundamentalism, the rise of resource-based economies that are rooted in communities that actually have relationships with the land, not communities that are trying to fulfill a how green are you score from the I don't know, National Health Organization of certifying organic charlatans. I don't know. I am right angle cross the sleeping phoenix and turn 50 in 2027. Dude, you quite literally are like that role model energy. What is your profile and your type, Infinite? Have you been in my live before? I feel like I love you so much and everything that you're doing. Um, Thanks for being here. I have Sleeping Phoenix. Is there any connection? Yeah. So Sleeping Phoenix is, it's the 3420. It's the channel, it's the manifesting generator channel. Of course, you're a manifesting generator if you're on the Sleeping Phoenix, duh. Um, I'm right angle cross of leadership, crone. Cool. I'm cross of rulership. Which what who's gonna are we gonna rule or are we gonna lead? I'm just kidding. Um, anyway, so yes, I've commented before. I remember we hadn't talked about this yet. That's freaking awesome though. I'm really excited to like reconnect on this level because a lot of what I've been doing has been shifting more that ways of you know creating communities because it's like guys, I do a lot. I don't necessarily do a ton of sessions, but I've done a lot of sessions. And one of the things that I always think about when I'm doing sessions is like, man, I wish other people could participate in that because the information that I just gave like totally changed everything for this person. And that's part of what the community is going to have is like a more scalable way for people to get still very like specific one-on-one counsel, but for other people to witness. And I think that's an important part of this process is for us to one of the ways that we decondition our own emotions or our own unnatural way of processing emotions is by watching people process things. It's not a replacement for processing your own things, but it does add to it. Our whole country needs group therapy. Yeah, for sure. Sorry, guys. I had to address a situation here at the homestead via text. The 2020 change actually has two IC movements: cross of planning to cross of sleeping phoenix. And what are you about to drop on me, Prana? I was mentioning we should all go to Egypt for 2027 solar eclipse totality path. That would be freaking crazy. I know that was a lot of typing. Yeah. I had to send some quick texts real quick. Quick text real quick. I had a vision about Egypt. Yeah, so again, and I want to do some crazy things with this community, guys. I really do. Um and it's cool for people to be bringing their ideas because a lot of this sounds cool, especially Infinite U 77. Like, yeah, Egypt sounds cool. I've never been to Egypt, but I resonate with the energy and the because Egyptians were it was the land of Chem. It's where alchemy was you could say it was born, but it's like rediscovered really. Um, and the original alchemy was agriculture. It was growing things. Egyptians were master growers. Anyway, it connects some of the activations I've done in Texas with the solar eclipse blast. Yes. Sexy, sweet, yet subtle. Hello, it's been a while. It's been a while. So we had an activation dedicated to the Hathors on top of Enchanted Rock 11. Ooh, that's what's up. It's so funny because, you know, these like little events. Like I have a buddy who every year on the Lionsgate portal he goes to Shasta and he does like a little mini retreat for a bunch of people. And it's so cool to know that throughout history, there have always been people that are going to the sacred sites to reinforce the grid and just infuse those nodal points with like life. And that's just amazing. So everyone benefits from that infinite you. And I know you already know that, but thank you for doing that kind of stuff. It's very important. It's very important. And for, you know, if you ever have an opportunity to participate in one of those events, um, do that. Can it be done remotely? Questionable. I'm not sure. I feel like, you know, certain things have to be done physically at a certain location for them to really have an effect. And, you know, you can pray for the people that are physically there. Adam, bro, I'm so mad at everyone right now and no one wants to hear it. Oh, is there what's going on, guys? Is there drama? Sorry, I don't mean to laugh at your guys' situation, but also it's not my drama, so I can be that way about it. So Amani, friend from the DJ group, started Desert Dwellers, has gridded Yucatan since he was a kid. I love that. That's so cool. Dude, I know. Manifestor's nightmare. Yeah, manifestors who won't manifest, LOL. Oh my God, I know that. That might be the most infuriating thing for me. Like frustrated generators, I don't want to be around. Bitter projectors, I don't really want to be around. Reflectors that are trying to be manifestors or other things, I don't want to be around. But if you're a manifestor that doesn't initiate and that doesn't inform, I'm like, it's more than I don't want to be around you. It's like I just want to shake you. Yeah. So you can send your subtle body to the PowerPoint astral projection. So yeah, to go back to your question, Adam, yeah, you can do stuff like that. You can project your consciousness there. And I firmly believe that there is a difference. There is a fundamental difference in the because if we're talking about grids, right? Grids are physical nodal points. And if your physical body isn't there to activate the grid, that just leaves a lot of room for something else to activate it. And like there's not it's no mystery why military bases, specifically like US military bases, are scattered and dotted across the world. It's not for strategic access. I mean, it partly is, but it's more so for energetic nodal access. Right? There's certain nodal points on our planet that you can't go because they're controlled by the military. Why do you think that is? Very interesting. And so anyway, yeah, prayers, all of that stuff is helpful. But when it comes to having feet on the ground, there is no replacement for that. That's what I believe. I have a book out called The Beings that I have a chapter in with my story. Oh, The Beings. Might have to check that out. I'm curious about what you're doing, man. Is it a man? Looks like a man. He looking like a man. Do you guys remember that Miss Swan character from God, what was it? Mad TV? He look like a man. Oh, that tea's hot. So gridding, and this is cool because it's like gridding is such a cool thing because you know it's like and for those people that don't know what gridding is, I want a man who looks like a man. The cool thing about gridding, right, is it's like our entire world is built of shapes and geometries. And so when you set up grids, like I have grids around my property. I have crystals that I've buried, plants that I've buried, places that I go meditate and I sit and I anchor an intention in there physically with my body. Because these bodies they create vibrations and they're also sensitive to vibrations. So they emit vibrations, they also receive vibrations. And one of the aims ought to be how to consciously emit and receive all vibrations so that when something is degrading your physical body or you're absorbing something that's detrimental to your health, you're aware of it and you can remove it. because not all things are harmonious. Doesn't mean everything has to be harmonious all the time, but harmony is the best shot at success that life has. And by success, I mean continuing life. CE5 meditation on that is that's the is that Disclosure Project? CE5. That's Stephen Greer. His stuff is wild. I feel like I over voodoo that stuff. Wait, what do you mean? Lights on the ground for over 2 hours, blinking Morse code. Oh, yeah. That stuff is so cool. Is that why things are syncing up so perfectly right now? So if things are syncing up perfectly for you right now, all I can say is that it's not an accident. Like you're not just getting a random freebie from the universe. If things are syncing up for you right now, it means that you've been taking the steps and doing the work. That's what synchronicities are. You know, synchronicities are like, oh, you're in alignment. And if things are syncing up right now, you know, even if it's like as trivial sometimes as like seeing angel numbers, all of my visions are coming true. Yep. Many light workers have adjusted their lens for the collective. Yeah, and this is when people go and grid things up, when you're connected to the people that are gridding and you're gridding from where you are, like, you know, not to say that again, going and gridding up these places is not powerful, but if you can't get to those places, instead of sending energy to that place, grid where you're at, grid your home, because everyone wants to focus on these like big nodes and these big rituals, but it's really the smaller nodes that are connecting everything. It's the side streets that even allow for the main highways to be used. It's the side streets. And we can grid any territory. Yeah, there are certain places that are again more potent and more how do you say, not necessarily more important to grid, but they hold a greater influence over a greater area. But again, it's like you could astral project yourself to Shasta during the, you know, the 8-8 portal, or you could like clean your room and grid your room so that you have energetic support for the next year in your own home. You know, again, it's this it's not a disease, it's like a virus of people being like, oh, I'm going, in order to heal myself, I have to help the world. It's like, to a degree, but also you got to start with where you're at. Like you can't help somebody or heal someone in ways that you haven't helped or healed yourself. That's it. And there's a lot of people selling, I'll heal your ancestral trauma, I'll do all this, I'll do all that, and blah 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 blah, and people are buying into it. And it doesn't mean that you have to be completely healed to heal anybody, but one of the most healing things is another human being on their healing journey. Not necessarily a teacher that can show you all the techniques, but walking with somebody and being like, dude, we have no idea what the fuck is going on here. And they're like, yeah, me neither, but at least we're doing this together. It's like, oh, okay, cool. They say if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Support systems, exactly. Yeah, because no man is an island, and we're all alone. You put yourself to sleep, you wake yourself up, and if you're smart, you have your own bed. Even if you have a partner that you love, if you're smart, you have your own bed. Not even if you're smart, but if you're like, if you care about your energy and you care about your partner's energy. So I love Richard Rudd's Triple Flame app. Reminds you and connects all those dots, connecting the 3x3. I haven't used that app. I'm really curious about that though. Richard Rudd is the guy that created Gene Keys. 3 minutes every 3 hours, connect to those who care. Oh, I love that. I wish I could have my own bed. So, Crone, and I'm not saying it's I'm challenging you because I slept on the porch for about 3 to 4 months because I wanted to be in my own bed. And the bed downstairs was still too close to my partner for me to get the kind of rest that I wanted. And I have to pee again. Excuse me. Rooster's cracking you up. Rooster is dream arc animal for the gift Gene Key 1. Gene Key is like is a totally like it's like a whole different video game than human design. But like the avatars are the same and the skins are technically the same. I'm a manifester surrounded by double and triple split generators. I need my own bed. Yeah. Oh, what was I going to say about the own bed? Yeah, I slept on a porch for months, and it was super. It was amazing. And now I have my own bus that I sleep in. Which again, I get not everyone can do that, but you can work your way towards it. Let's go check over YouTube, see what's going on there. Nothing on YouTube. Well, I mean, we got 3 people on YouTube. So who shouldn't share beds? Partners, I don't think should share beds. And I say that because human design says that, but I also say that because now that I've been sleeping in my own bed for 3 years, I'm like more in love with my partner than ever. And I genuinely believe that a lot of relationships end because of reasons that stem from the fact that you just sleep in the same bed too much and that you become resentful of each other because of all of the unconscious swampingness of energy. BG, hi, hello. I know, I'm like, YouTube, where are you guys? I love you. I'm sorry, I haven't been paying attention to your comments. Once I get better internet, hopefully my live streams won't be so terrible quality. But anyway, I just started sleeping in my own bed after 30 years. Wow, what a difference in energy. Stacy, now the love is coming back. Stacy, yes. Yes, that is exactly the kind of stuff I'm talking about. I'm a projector and ex-partner was a manifesting generator. There's so much, again, and this is one of those things where it's like people confuse something that looks like connection for actual connection. Like people think that just because they're having sex means that they're intimate. Not true. You can have the act of lovemaking without actually having love, right? And Stacy, I'm so stoked. That's amazing. I love that. I love that for y'all. And I want that for anybody that also wants to have that for themselves. Because it's so simple. Yeah, sleeping together ruined my marriage. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. And also it's like if you don't make the changes and you don't actually align with what's true and you keep like trying to convince yourself that something is true that's not actually true, like sleeping in the same bed is how we stay connected. Like, no, it's not. No, it's not. Sleeping in the same bed is how you accelerate the conditioning process of each other. He was the one that liked it. I learned for projectors can extra after separate rooms. Yeah. Non-sacral beings are going to be the most affected by sleeping in the same bed as their partner, especially if their partner is sacral. However, generators benefit a lot from it as well. But sleeping seems like the best part. How do I stop myself? Wait, say what? But sleeping seems like the best part. How do I stop myself? Can you rephrase the question, smiley face? And Stacy, it is such a simple change. And again, that's the kind of things that, I looked at human design, and as a reflector, part of my gift is being able to like see where you are or see where you're at with things. And it's really important to um, address the simple things first before we move on to the extravagant things. Like a lot of people I do sessions with, they don't have any kind of morning routine. And I don't need you to have like an hour-long morning routine. I'm not going to give you an hour-long morning routine to do every morning. I'll give you a 5-minute one. And if you can't do the 5-minute one, well, then you're not going to get to learn the hour-long one. Because you can't do the 5-minute one. Why would I let you do the hour-long one? You'll hurt yourself. Stuff is powerful. But anyway, sleeping in your own bed. Simple shift that you can make. One thing I will say is it's very important to for mothers and children, co-sleeping I think is very important, because the baby's nervous system is still trying to figure out how it works. I think co-sleeping is really important. Yeah, AM routine, most important part, set time each day and honor it, right? Yeah, again, so there's these little things that you can install into your life that can be based, like you can use human design to base your morning routine off of, which is kind of when you do a session with me, you leave with a morning routine, your report, and a video that has so much information in it from our session that you're going to have to go back and watch it a couple times, because you will not be able to absorb everything in one go. That's the benefit of having my 10 years of experience in an hour session with me, as opposed to just going to like Chat GPT or something. And also my background is not in, I'm not a purist human design person. I'm a martial artist. I'm a musician. I've led retreats. I do Reiki. I have a lot of complementary practices that kind of give my approach to human design what I believe it gives it an edge. It gives it a big edge. I also drink a lot of tea, which makes me super spiritual. Low key though, like drinking tea over coffee, mineralizing. One mineralizes you, the other demineralizes you and dehydrates you. Tea over coffee. I will drink a coffee. If I got a project or like I gotta go into town and like I need the energy, I will drink a coffee. But it's not my daily. I have a musician friend that wrote a song that was called Super Spiritual. I love parody songs like that. I'm actually really good at that kind of stuff. Some of having a routine can depend on active determination in variable or gate 5. For sure. What kind of I guess examples would you give on that? Determination, like environment, right? And gate 5, gate of fixed rhythms. Yeah, certain people I would definitely say like are more inclined and built for routine, but everyone's got a skeleton. The right amount of routine is good, I think, good for everybody, or can help people. But again, sometimes that's why you don't get an hour routine right out the gates. You get a 5-minute routine, because for some people 5 minutes is all they need until they need more, and then they do more. But it's about, it's like when you in your life, there's certain things that you do regularly, because if you don't do them, you start to stink, or your body starts to eat itself, or you start to get sunburns, right? There's certain things that you have to do to take care of yourself, and one of those things, in my opinion, and one of the things that I offer to all my students to start their morning routines with, is something I call RPM. It stands for Rise, Piss, Meditate, and it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a very short meditation, right, that allows you to wake up, go empty your bladder, and then come back and sit for like 5 minutes. And the only stipulate, it's not a contemplation meditation. It's just hey, just breathe and be aware of your body. Do your best not to move your body as much as you can. Sit for a full 5 minutes. And if your mind goes crazy, let it. If your mind is peaceful, let it. Don't try and change or stop your thoughts. That's like trying to stop your heart from beating. It's absolutely like backwards. You're not trying to pacify your mind. You're just trying to become more aware of the activity within your mind. Top left arrow. So we would say then that if your top left arrow is facing left, routine is going to be like super vital, right? And if it's facing right, like if it's facing left, have a specific time of day that you do your routine. If it's facing right, do it when you feel like it. Do it when you feel like you need it. And I would recommend like every day is a good minimum. Because again, with meditation, a lot of people think that you're trying to make your mind peaceful. Yes, got the prana stamp of approval. I knew exactly what he was saying. When you're trying to pacify your mind, again, like I said, that's like trying to stop your digestion from happening, or suppressing your creative urges or your emotional waves. You're doing something to like fight one of the body's natural processes, which is one of the processes that we really neglect, is our connection to the things that we cannot see. We are very much so a part of the world, and we very much so spend an disproportionate amount of time in the physical world in terms of our consciousness, as opposed to the non-physical world. Because the non-physical world, from my perspective, is the most expansive, is more expansive than the physical world. What does it mean if all my arrows are pointed outward from the body? So variables are equivalent to like how the body graph shows us what your genetic expression is going to be like, and what your behaviors and traits and stuff like that. The variables are showing us like the architecture of your mind is a good way to view it. So what the body graph does for the form and the body, the variables are doing that for the mind. And so it's a technically considered an advanced element of human design. But essentially, one ways you can understand it is that left facing arrows are more rigid, right? So the top left arrow is determination, how you eat food, how you eat and intake information, right? If the arrow is facing left, you want to be more rigid with it. Give yourself set times to eat at set times of the day. Um, um, Eat set types of food. And there's further delineation in your reports and in neutrino design that will tell you more about it. But generally speaking, you see left facing arrows, and especially on the red side, you have determination, which is digestion, and then environment. And if they're facing left, again, it's more rigid. So it's like if your bottom left arrow is facing left, then you're going to want to be more structured with the environments that you spend in. I'm going to have, this is my workspace. I spend 3 hours here. And then this is my hangout space. I spend an hour here. And then this is my, etc. So like your environments, be in them in a more structured way. And if it's facing right, it's like, I'm going to work till I'm done, or I'm going to work till I don't want to work anymore, or I'm going to be in this environment till I don't want to be there anymore. And same thing with the top left arrow. If it's facing right, it's eat when you're hungry, eat what tastes good. It's not about necessarily how you say, it's they're opposing forces, right? Left is active and strategic, right is passive and receptive. So equivalence, left facing stuff is more like defined centers, and right facing arrows are more like undefined centers. Now, when you get to the personality arrows, the mind of the mind versus the mind of the body, like, because the design arrows, the red arrows on the left side of your head are it's like the mind of your body, right? So when you get to the right side, the black arrows, the mind of your mind, that's awareness and perspective. So being aware of what you need to be aware of in the way that you need to be aware of it. If it's facing right, again, be more passive and receptive. If it's facing left, have more of a strategic approach to your awareness of things. If the bottom one is facing right, in terms of perspective, like, be receptive to the perspective that you're seeing it in. And if it's facing left, be more rigid and strategic about it. See, and even as I'm saying it, it's like it's kind of like mental jargon. right? My only right is the bottom left. So okay, so you're the type of person that the environment, impacts you a lot, and to not be too rigid about it. Another way of putting it is that, like, you know, just because the environment doesn't necessarily live up to your standards doesn't mean that the environment is wrong. It just means that it's different than the environments that you typically would enjoy, or the way you enjoy being in the environment. I'm all left and my partner is all right. That is awesome. I love when I see couples and people who are opposites of each other, because there's just something so beautiful about being able to um, acknowledge the value of someone who does something in a totally different way than you do it, as opposed to looking for validation for the way that I do things by seeing, oh, do you do things like this? Oh, you do things that way. I should do things that way because my way is probably wrong. It might be. It might be an adaptive strategy that you picked up in your conditioning process. Manifesting generator and projector. She's a 6'2". God, yeah, you guys are a power couple. The projector and the sacral type generator, manifesting generator, like that is going to be the energy that is going to lead us into the new age, right? And what I mean by that is when a generator and a projector are able to fully accept, acknowledge, and interact with each other based off their natural circuitry, that is one of the most powerful combinations in the world, straight up. Because oftentimes there is a defined sacral in the composite of a generator and a projector. But more so than that, when the generator acknowledges the capacity of the projector to guide them as a generator, the projector helps the generator by showing them how to avoid mistakes, how to be more efficient with their energy, how to navigate better. And then the generator helps the projector by giving, like, lending their sacral energy to them, right? They're able to go places and be less affected because they're more tied into their partner's sacral energy than they are to all of the energies around them, all the sacral energies around them. This is the equivalent of, like, a woman feeling safe with a man in a place that she wouldn't feel safe alone, or a man feeling safe, like, I don't know, in the perfume department or the women's underwear section because he's with a woman, because it would be inappropriate for them to be in those places um, solo dolo. But when you have composite, when you have other people's energy and you're in a party as opposed to just by yourself, it's different. So anyway, we also have 6 children. Between all of them and us, we have 2 of every design, just no reflector. Oh man, that's interesting. My family is small, but it's growing, and we have. I'm a reflector. My partner is a projector, and our daughter is an emotional manifester. So we all have different types and different authorities. And I freaking love it. So I am projector 3-5 X's man gen 6-2. It worked till it didn't. Still BFFs teaching each other gifts. Well, and this is another thing too, is like, I see a lot of people in their elder years, specifically like around the age that women will go through menopause. The relationship that seems to fall apart. But one of the reasons why it seems to fall apart is because that relationship is over. When menopause happens for the woman, right? There's hormonal shift, there's a big shift. It's not about making babies anymore. And so the relationship, the romance, the passion that you had with your partner, you don't want to look for that in the next stage of your relationship. Jennifer, what you're doing with your ex sounds to me like and of course you guys are human, so you're gonna have your own thing. So I'm not trying to, like, gas you up, but it's it's um it's important to recognize that entering into the later stages of our lives, our focus shift from bringing babies into the world to helping the people that have been brought into this world learn, from our experiences as elders. I'm not an elder, although I am an elder too. I have nephews and a daughter and everything, and so I don't identify as an elder because I don't necessarily have the age of the experience, but I do have a lot of experience. So anyway, I'm a young elder. I'm an elder in training, is what I like to say. Um, yeah, not sure it's done. We don't have kids and met in later years. Yeah. And again, it's like, again, the relationship that you look for when you're in your 20s is different than the relationship that you look for in your 30s, 40s, etc. Menopause is not really an elder, it's middle age, just saying. I hear you. And to me, that middle age, that's the transition into eldership. And for me, I'm very much so about physical initiations. Like, I think adulthood, you know, happens a lot sooner than we say it happens. I think when puberty hits for an individual, and for girls, it can hit as young as 14. Once you're capable of bearing children, your biology is capable of bearing children, or fertilizing people who are capable of bearing children. Once that physical initiation and threshold is crossed, to me, it's like, well, now you're an adult. Now you have to suffer adult consequences for your actions. You're fertile. You know what I mean? And the reason I'm in that camp, and I'm not saying like the laws should reflect that or any of that, because you still have to adjust. But once your body starts to make that physical transition, it's that physical transition. Prana, I love you, homie. Thank you so much for dropping in. So yeah, but it's not really like hormonally an elder. What I'm saying is also is that, like, we shouldn't wait till I'm also saying, like, we shouldn't wait for somebody to have gray hair and, you know, getting like older and wrinkly skin to treat them like wisdom. Like, women and men that are in their 40s and 50s, like approaching eldership, right? They have wisdom for us. And it's really sad because so much of our society, like, a lot of, and especially a lot of the like people who are into um like socialism particularly, they look at the elders as like, oh, they're just using up resources that could be used for the rest of the world. Post menopause, your value to society is not through bearing children. Yeah, exactly. And I think that once you shift into that, that's the next stage of going from the maiden, which is pre able to bear children, to the mother, which is able to bear children, to the crone or the elder, which is after being able to bear children. Am I making this up, or did Ross say that he doesn't think people should have kids? No, he actually, I think he said projectors shouldn't have kids because projectors are here as a result of the deviation from our natural designs. Projectors are here to help us clear up that karma and guide us back towards our natural way of being. And when you have children, you're just bringing more karma into the world. Oopsie. I know I got a projector pregnant, and now we got a manifester. So we're like dinosaurs. We don't have any generators or manifesting generators in our midst. But anyway, I also like, there's a lot of things that Ross said that um it's not that I don't believe him. It's just I'm like, okay, like what, okay, that's what you say. That's all. It's not, again, it's not like he's wrong or he's right about some of the stuff he said. I'm like, okay, cool. Let me test that out. Yep, he was right about that. We also just found out we have another one on the way. And for you, congratulations. My partner doesn't want me telling everyone. But you guys are not everyone. You're just like this small group right here. But I'm gonna be having another baby too. I have a 2-year-old, and so we can welcome in our children together, Infinite You. I know, I know. It was this time. It was not as much of a surprise. We were talking about having another one. So it's the first time I've said it on social media. So Ross said we are conditioned to be attracted to what's different for the benefit of our genes. Ah, yes, yes. Right. That's what I was saying earlier. I was like, I love when people like are attracted to different types and stuff. It's awesome to like date your own type, but when it comes to survival, oh, Summer, thank you. Appreciate it. Everyone that had those congratulations for me and the family. Thank you. It's been being a father is not something that I wanted to do before the age of 40. I thought I had to have it all figured out before I had children, and because of that, the universe was like, Marco, no, you're gonna figure it out. Here's a child to expedite your process, and I genuinely think that children are it's all about the children. Because at one point it was all about you. When you were a kid, hopefully you had parents. If you didn't, I'm grateful that you made it to adulthood. And but at one point it was all about you. When you were just born, right? In the natural way, the way things are supposed to happen. Part of what makes us mammals different than reptiles is that we care for our young. Reptiles lay eggs. Like you think about turtles, they're so beautiful and wonderful, but turtles literally lay hundreds of eggs, and only like two of those eggs actually ever make it to adulthood. Most of them die. So they're playing a numbers game. The mammalian strategy for procreation is different. It's not have 100 and maybe two will survive. It's have one and make sure that one survives. It's fundamentally different than reptilian. And reptiles are our ancestors. So it's not all bad. But it's what leads to insecurity with your openness. Interesting. So let me try and break that down, guys. Like Ross said, we're conditioned to be attracted to what's different for the benefit of our genes. And it's what leads to insecurity in your openness. And it's also probably what leads to that feeling of like wanting a partner to feel whole. And also, it's like, there are certain realms of masculinity that cannot be reached without it's the other way around, actually, and no one wants to like Teal Swan talks about this a lot. She goes, there are potential heights for the feminine energy that cannot be reached unless the masculine energy is around. However, however, men can reach high heights without feminine energy. But she doesn't talk about this, and it's the reverse. So there are levels of depth that a man cannot get to without feminine energy. It's different. It's not heights and achievement. It's different. Okay. There's certain levels of depth that men cannot get to without feminine presence. And so there is this like polarity where it's like in ways, in terms of like achievement on the material plane, there are certain places that women cannot get without men. However, in the non-physical plane, there are certain places that women can get that they don't need men. You guys feel me on this? A man will only go into those depths and step into like the harmonizing of his feminine energy if there's another feminine energy present. Right? And you see this all the time because it's like there's men who can achieve a lot of things, but there's no depth in it. There's women who can be incredibly deep and rooted in the non-physical realms and in magic, but they have no resources and they're struggling, you know? And so this all goes to say that it's like we're just better together. We are just better together. And we're better when we're together in a way that doesn't compromise our individuality. Just found out I'm a 1-3 emotional authority and I have a 4-year-old son is 6'2 MG sacral. Okay, so you both have sacral. So Jasmine, some tips for you. Anyway, how old is he? 4-year-old. So don't ask him open-ended questions. Don't ask him what he wants to eat. Give him options. Hey, do you want chicken? Do you want steak? Do you want this? Do you want that? Don't say, what do you want to eat? What do you want to do? Do you want to play with this? You have to give his sacral something to be like, or ooh, to. Huge pro tip. Also, don't force them to go to sleep at a certain time. If you want to control their sleeping schedule, make sure that they're exhausted by the end of the day. That's the only way it goes. Because here's the thing about generators: if you force a generator to sleep when they're not tired, that is where some of the the initial foundations of their conditioning gets set. Is in bed. Oh, it's bedtime, but I'm not tired. Yeah, well, too bad. It's bedtime. I gotta go do my thing. And if you do that, I'm not trying to shame you. I'm just trying to let you know what's actually happening to your child. You're conditioning them, you're conditioning them to do what's told of them rather than listen to the wisdom of their body. And if you're smart and you're clever and you're creative and you're dedicated enough to like actually giving your child an experience that's not going to like put them in your mold of what you want them to be, instead of setting a bedtime, just make sure that they're exhausted by the time that bedtime comes. And that's one of the best things you can do for them. So pro tip for both of you. Yep. Yeah, and ADHD, I don't think, I mean, some people think it's like a real disease, but I think it's just it's a different style of living life that doesn't fit into society. Do you think that success in business slash sales, it's all connected to sacral energy or around chakras? So it's the success of sales, truly, the success of sales is the ability to leverage somebody's not self. And that sounds kind of messed up because I'm good at sales, but it's the ability to articulate people's pain in such a way and have a solution for that pain that can help them. Sometimes it doesn't help and it's just a sale, and that's what you would consider a scam. But there's plenty of situations where like people are like, the gym is a scam. They buy a membership and they don't lose weight, but they never go to the gym. So success in sales, in my opinion, is the recognition of the truth of what sales actually is. And it's not selling people stuff they don't need. It's selling people stuff that they think they need, but they actually just want. That's what good sales is. It's convincing you, oh, I know you want to learn about human design, but here's why you need to learn about human design. I'm a gangster at this, guys. Luckily, I'm on your side and I'm not going to charge you $300,000 to work with me. But great question. I want to talk more about that. I'm going to go pee again. Crystal, thank you for liking the live. My man making it. Yeah, baby. When it rains, it pours. Tea definitely makes me pee a lot. Yeah. Why are manifestor men always unfaithful? That's my real question. Oh my God. Oh, that's so funny. So check this out. Fourth line profiles, it's been said that they typically will find another relationship before they leave the relationship. If your manifestor is a fourth line, that could be a reason. But another reason is the way manifestors rebel in life is they don't let people know. Like if a manifestor wants to punish you, whether it's consciously or unconsciously, because they're feeling like they're being controlled, they just won't tell you things. And so why are manifestor men always unfaithful? Why are the manifestor men you're around unfaithful? That's the real question. Because it's not necessarily true. Not all manifestor men are unfaithful, but a lot of manifestor men are stuck in the shadow of themselves. And anyone stuck in the shadow of themselves and not able to see that shadow will do stuff like be unfaithful and shitty. Sadie, is compatibility within the aura types a thing? Yes. Yes, we can look at compatibility. But like I was saying, just because, for instance, you and your crush have amazing chemistry in the composite, it doesn't necessarily mean that's what you're going to experience. It's kind of like, in video games or like in movies, like they show the main character or they show your avatar and he's like super strong and he's like the best and he's like got all the skills and he's really strong. And then somehow he gets like knocked from level 50 all the way back to number one. Shout I like to sing it. Yeah, I like kind of like vibing. But they get knocked back to level 1. When you look at a composite, you're looking at like this is the best version of you according to human design. operates in this way, and this is what the dynamic looks like when you're both like in alignment with your designs. But you might not be in alignment with your designs. And in fact, I think it would be what's to say? Uh very presumptuous to think that you could ever perfect coach but never achieve, because once you achieve it, then you're more vulnerable than ever, right? It's like the wolf at the top of the hill, at the top of the food chain, can very quickly become super sedentary and stop training and stop sharpening their skills. And that makes it, and then of course, everyone else is looking at the, they want to get to the top. And then some younger, stronger wolf comes and takes them out. Ex manifestor 6'2", never cheated, never did IMG. So yeah, exactly. So again, and it's, you know, and not to like totally call you out. What was it? Oh, smiley face. Yeah, not to totally single you out, but it's like that's the you know, the fallacies or the fails in logic that happen with human design, is that you start putting people into boxes and saying, oh well, they did this because they're a manifester, and it's not because of their type. It's because of their inability to align with their natural energy. Human design is just a tool that we use to reveal and experiment and see for ourselves what's natural, but we can't put people into boxes. It does not, it doesn't help them. Because they put themselves in their own boxes. And instead of putting people in boxes, just know what box they're in. Hopefully that helps. New to TikTok, also new to human design. Advice for a 1-3 emotional manifester in creating content. Oh, wow. Cool. Okay. 1-3. Experiment with posting things that and it would depend on what channel you have. Can you tell me what channel you have, Cosmic Cam Cam? One thing I would say though, in terms of creating content, be very experimental, right? Like your emotional authority in terms of content, like as long as you don't put anything too charged out there that like will possibly ruin your reputation, or you're not like calling people out, like one of your greatest gifts is going to be experimenting with sharing your parts of your emotional process, and the ways that you fuck up, and the ways that you forgive yourself, and the ways that you experiment, and the types of questions that you ask, right? Like one of the best things that you can do as a manifester on social media is ask people questions. Hey, how do you feel about this? This kind of made me feel a little bit weird. How do you feel about this? Some of the best content creators that are like actual thought leaders are in a way like manifestors. They're giving people something to initiate with, which is different than a lot of the people who are just like responding to videos, right? The response, that's huge nowadays. Say, okay, the only man that I ran a chart for is my daughter's father. I am not with anymore. He is a projector and I own MG. That makes sense. Yeah, so Sade, MGs and projectors have a potential to work well together, but they also have a potential to really be at each other's throats. Yeah. I'm confused. I wonder what I am. Most likely a manifester. So Mama Rosi, and anyone that doesn't know what type you are, you can go to my website, reikimarco.com, and you can plug in your birth information and it'll tell you your type, your authority. It'll tell you a lot of information. Now, there are more details behind a paywall. And the reason I put it behind a paywall is because it's really, really good information. But I also made the paywall really low. There's a budget report that's $20, and then there's a maxed out report for $35. So it's not going to cost you more than a dinner for two, or a dinner for one if you're depending on where you dine, simply because the information there is so freaking good. And for anyone that's bought a report, you guys know these reports kick ass. I've spent quite a bit of time refining them. So anyway, channels of marketing, 2644, the listener, presence, and needs. Right. So those are your keynotes. When you're making content, right? Like marketing is surrender. So like surrendering to, you know, your observations of the past, you're surrendering to your, I want to be the best. I want to be the best. And this is how I think I'm going to become the best, you know. The listener, I was listening to this, or this is a secret that nobody knows, right? Presence 3536, this is a crisis that I went to and this is what I learned out of it. Present, that's the 3536 is progress. Needs 1949. Where are you getting these keynotes, by the way? That sounds like some quantum human design stuff. Which, if you like quantum human design, that's cool, but I think quantum human design is too fluffy. I don't like it. I don't like it because, um, you know, a lot of the things in human design are meant to be pointed because they're not accepted by society, but they're very much so a part of society. And human design makes quantum human design makes things a little bit more fluffy. And in my opinion, it's I'm not saying it's not helpful. A lot of people who resonate with quantum human design more than the regular human design. I'm just not one of them. So I'd look more at what might have been exampled as child beliefs, intimacy later now versus life in life versus typing. I know the comments, you guys, sometimes you guys can't get your full what do you call it, message out in comments. I was in one of my friends live the other day and I was trying to type a really long comment and I was like, oh, you can only do like 2 lines of words. That's kind of weird. When it comes to why men would cheat, yeah, men cheat for a lot of reasons, but mostly it's because they don't feel appreciated or they don't feel like they have a relationship worth being in, but they also haven't found a good enough reason to leave. And a lot of men will also cheat because they're just not, their physical appetite is not being satiated. And it's not to say that all men want is sex. Men want physical intimacy, but for a lot of men, the only way they know how to get physical intimacy, which is the thing that they actually need, and if you're in a relationship with someone, that's the thing that you should actually be focused on giving them is intimacy, and it's not restricted to sex. You can be intimate with making food with each other. You can be intimate with holding and cuddling and being physical and close. And also, you can't escape that. Sex is a part of it. You can't remove sex from a relationship, in my opinion, and have the deepest levels of intimacy with someone. I mean, that's just how I see it. Some people would say like, "Oh, Christed figures can eliminate sex from their relationship, and therefore, have like another level of depth of emotion." And that's true. That's true. Again, especially in later years of life when your biology is different. But when you're in the fertility zone for men and specifically for women, when you're of the age and of the hormonal capacity to bear children, sex is important for you too. So anyway, yeah, look at child's examples versus typing and what happened when you were a kid could be why we need to heal 5-year-old self wounds. Right, exactly. Because everyone as a child, primarily if you had your parents in your life, you learned about sex and relationships from watching your parents. And then your first relationship happens and like women, like little girls, their first sexual desires are towards their fathers because that's the masculine energy in their life. And same thing for boys, their boys, when they start having sexual urges, they look at their mom and they're like, wait, what? And there's nothing wrong with it. It just is very immature. And once you date a boy, it's like, wow, this guy is nothing like my dad, or he's exactly like my dad in all the ways that I hate, and vice versa for boys dating girls. She's exactly like my mom and I hate that, or she's exactly like my mom and I love that, or she's not nothing like my mom and I hate that, or she's nothing like my mom and I love that. And then you realize that all these people that you're dating eventually after the fourth or fifth relationship, none of these people are who you think they are because you're not relating with the actual person. You're what you think the person is and what you think that person is supposed to do as a girlfriend, boyfriend in your life. So at some point, you stop dating and you have a real hard look at, hey, what are the expectations that I have of romantic partners and intimate partners? And what are the expectations that I have of myself? See, it's like conscious to think about what my expectations for my partner is. But what's even more conscious is asking yourself what the expectations you are for yourself. Because if you're in a relationship that is not helping you grow, it is 100% distracting you and conditioning you further out of whack. If your relationship is not helping you grow, time doesn't stand still. If you don't use the energy every day to build something, that energy gets wasted. That's how it is. And you might need to waste energy for a long time before you realize I'm done with wasting energy. But it still doesn't is that's what it is. Practicing Reiki like I always wanted, or practicing art or sharing music like I wanted. And it's like some people don't want to like hurt anyone's feelings by saying, oh no, you didn't waste time, you were learning. But it's like, no, dude, you were wasting time. And you can still choose to waste time. You're spending it. You're spending it, you know it or not. whether you like it or not, you're spending time. So, with that, there's a sense of urgency to not necessarily completely figure yourself out, but at least know and build confidence in how to take the next step. All right, like for anyone that's seen the Vikings, that movie Vikings, or the show Vikings specifically, if you haven't seen it, it's an awesome show, and I won't spoil it for you. But the very opening season is about a Viking village where one of the Vikings, Ragnar, has this crazy idea. He talks to a world traveler, and he goes, "There is land, fertile land, across the sea." And the Jarl is like, "You're an idiot. We're just gonna go raiding to the west, right? We're gonna go raiding to the west like we always do." Um, but Ragnar says, "Nah, I'm just gonna go." So in secret, he goes and he navigates an open sea where only one person has ever told him, "Hey, there's something else over there." But this is the type of navigation and exploration that is only accessible to the people who are willing to leave shore. Everyone else who wants to just do what's been working for years, even though it's not working anymore. Anyway, why was I even talking about that? Does anyone remember? Can anyone get me back on thread with that? Why was I talking about Vikings sailing across the sea on like a hope and a vision? When you put your first, it's not hard to leave at all, right? When you put yourself first, but sometimes it's hard to put yourself first. Because you're not used, and it's hard to leave a relationship. Got it. Yeah, because you don't know what's going to happen. Am I going to find someone that loves me as much as this person did? But again, when you not to say that maybe you're asking the wrong questions. It's not am I going to find someone that's going to love me this much again? It's how can I love myself more in this next chapter? All right, what are some of the things, like why do I want to leave the relationship in the first place? What is happening that is causing me to not want to be in this relationship? And then how can I set up a standard so that I don't have to experience that in the next relationship? It's up to us. We decide what to let in, we decide what to hold close, we decide what to cement into our systems, and we also decide what to rip out. And you can rip it out really viciously, and it can be very traumatic and dramatic and shocking, or it can be more graceful. And this community that I'm building for you guys is aiming to make the whole deconditioning process more graceful without having to like learn a bunch of stuff about human design and put together all these separate puzzle pieces. It's not about creating the image, it's about discovering the image. I'm so excited, which I probably am going to sign off here and start working on that because I want to get this up for you guys. You'll see once we're in it together, once we're in the community together, guys, and you're like, "Oh my god, you were right, you were underselling it." Yeah, I know. So yeah, it really is about loving ourselves first and having a not necessarily like a super strict approach, but having an approach. So anyway, guys, that's going to be it for me today. Thank you so much for an incredible live. If you're not following me already, invitation to follow. I go live every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So if you turn your notifications on, I think you can do that on TikTok. Or set an alarm, because if you want to catch me again, I go live Monday, Wednesday, Friday every week at 9 a.m. Hawaii Standard Time. That's 9, 10, 11 a.m., 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And I guess, 3 hours later for Eastern Time, 11, 12, 13, 14, 2 o'clock. Yeah. And of course, if you guys need any reports or you need to generate a body graph, you can generate unlimited body graphs on my website. So you can, but if you're going to do that, you might as well just get the app, because you can do that in the app as well. And you'll have all the information there. I do one-on-ones. I do couple readings. I do business sessions. So if you got a business idea, I can help you give birth to it. And if you have a business that's already running and you have employees or partners, I do analysis for groups of 3 to 5. So anyway, I love you guys. This is a great live. I will see you on Friday, and maybe before then, because I am a reflector and I do like surprises. So with that, signing off. Love you guys. Thank you so much. Have a